Have you ever asked your doctor if it's healthy to eat a lot of fruit? Well, I had a conversation with my doctor about it, and here's what he said. Welcome back to the RL Truth, everybody. Thank you all for supporting me and my channel. I appreciate all of you. If you're a newcomer, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and so you can get insights and notifications of when I do release new videos. This channel is about natural health and diet, my journey towards fruitarianism, and also talking about everything that is truth. So look. When I used to go to the doctor, just like your average individual would, on routine visits or physicals or whatever the case may be, I used to have some pretty deep conversations with my doctor. Now, as of now, I don't actively go to a doctor. Not saying there's anything wrong with going to a doctor, but with my philosophy, I take accountability for my own health and do my own due diligence. And this story will kind of be a precursor to why that is. But when I did go to the doctor, I did a lot of research on who I would go to, and I found this doctor that had amazing reviews and was just very knowledgeable within the medical community, within the allopathic community. And I liked this doctor at the time because, he would break things down for me. He had a little whiteboard where he would write down and show diagrams of how things worked and why this test was used for this, that, and the other. It was very thorough, and I really appreciated that. And I was going to him in the midst of my transition into the vegetarian diet. And I remember coming in and letting him know that I had went vegetarian. And he would ask me, okay, well, what do you eat? And I was like, well, I eat, like some zucchini sometimes. I eat some rice. I eat, some squash, some asparagus. What else did I say? Bell peppers, things of that nature. And he'd look at me and he'd say, those aren't vegetables. Those are fruits. Vegetables are leafy, kale and lettuce and blah, 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 right? And we're not here to get into that. But what it did was it took us down a road where every time I would talk to the doctor about my diet, he would downplay fruit and basically say you shouldn't be eating fruit because fruit is too much sugar. He even gave me these examples of where the origins of sugar came from and what sugar can do to the body, this, that, and the other. Well, being who I am, I was always doing my due diligence on the side. And that's something that I implore to each and every one of you to do the same things. And, came to my own conclusion of what health truly is. And it made me realize the difference between the natural path, the natural path and the natural path versus the allopathic medical community, especially here in the West, in America. And the truth is that my doctor at the time was only speaking upon what he was extremely knowledgeable of, and that is the healthcare allopathic system. And that system does not really differentiate when it comes to types of sugar or when it comes to diet and nutrition being a major part of health. So when I'd come in and tell him that, I've been eating a lot more fruit, and that's why I felt that my numbers or whatever, my markers were doing so much better, he would basically poo-poo that and shoo that and say it was more due to the lettuce or the salads that I was eating and try to get me away from eating fruit and mostly focusing on salads, right? And he did, one of the good things he did talk about was, raw food is better than cooked food, which is obviously 100% true. But it just showed me right then and there, especially looking back to what I know now, because I haven't been to this doctor or a doctor in general in years, right? But just reiterates the point that we're on different paths and different journeys. We have different motivations. Now, that's not to speak about this doctor personally. I mean, I'm sure that all the advice that he was giving me was for the best through his eyes, through his path, through his journey and what he had learned. But looking back on it, it just makes me realize, and I hope it makes you realize that, there's different paths. And the system that has been built for healthcare in this country and a lot of parts around the world is built off a motivation of treatment and a reactive process versus a proactive process. The fact that the allopathic community looks at all sugars the same is your first tip off, your first red flag right there, because to compare fruit sugar with any other type of sugar is just asinine, right? Fruit sugar bypasses most of the metabolic process to get to the cells, whereas refined sugars and other complex carbohydrates have to go through the insulin process and a huge digestive process, which causes a lot of burden on the body, which causes the domino effect of different health ailments. Whereas fruit almost gets like a red carpet right to the cells. Like, there's not a better food on this planet for humans than fruit because of that. Remember, everything starts from a cellular level, cells to tissues to organs. So everything within you breaks down to a cell, right? And we can go even further than that and break it down to the atom. But the point is that the cells feed off of carbohydrates, and there isn't another food on the planet that is more optimal for the cell than the fruit. So if you've dealt with anything like this, an experience like this, or have any questions about it, feel free to drop some comments down below. But I just want to reiterate that, look, I'm not saying not to listen to your doctor. I'm not saying not to go to the doctor. What I'm merely saying is to always do your due diligence. And sometimes your doctor's goals, journey, motivations are different than yours, right? So don't ever think that a doctor's recommendations are gospel, because they are not at the end of the day, right? We're all individuals. They are not on a higher pedestal than us. But I wanted to share that story because it's always resonated with me. And this was a doctor that I held at a pretty high regard at the time, because to me, he was the best of the best of what I could find. And like I said earlier, I loved the way he broke things down, and he made things very relatable. But there were things that he talked about, a case in point, and I'll do this right before the end of the video. I remember every time I go in there, he would ask me if I wanted a flu shot. Do you want a flu shot? Do you want a flu shot? And I just asked him, I said, hey, man, and this is, before I really got deep into the terrain model. I was like, there's like so many different strains of the flu, they say. And the flu shot doesn't cover all of them. So like, what's the point of getting it? And his answer was, he was straight up. He was like, hey man, it's the best that we got. And that was it, plain and simple. But just by asking the question, it opened up my eyes at that moment that, hey, look, the doctor himself is basically saying like, look, we really ain't got nothing to 100% keep you immune from the flu, but this is all we got. So I'm going to offer it to you. So when you start to ask questions and open those doors, you start to realize that, look, we're all just people and we're all just relaying information. So at the end of the day, look, if you like this video, if it resonates with you, make sure you give me a thumbs up. I love comments. I love the interaction, and I'll make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Otherwise, I'll be back next week with another video. Peace, love, and light, everybody.